front, no meme. Get the fuck off my stage, I'm the Sandman. Get the fuck off my dick, that ain't right. I make a play, fucking up your whole life. I'm so fucking sick and tired of the Photoshop. Show me something natural like Afro One Richard Pryor. Show me something natural like ass with some stretch marks. Still I'll take you down right on your mama couch in polo socks. Hey, this shit way too crazy. Hey, y'all don't want me faking. Hey,
sit down. Be humble.
My left stroke just went viral.
What's going on, all you humble hippos? My name's Mason.
And my name's Grayson.
And welcome to The Modern Dude.
A podcast by dudes, for dudes, helping dudes become better dudes.
Duderino!
Most guys are raised with a iron sharpens iron mentality. This can lead to a very competitive mindset and doesn't leave a lot of room for humility. Being humble is as attractive as it is important to personal growth, especially for the modern dude. Nailed it.
You did.
Thanks,
I'm proud of you.
Iron sharpens iron.
Oh, yeah. So, we're talking about humility and how that's kind of a lost art with dudes. There is so much that we as guys are taught that is just like banter and back and forth and alpha male and blah, blah, blah. So the nuances of humility are lost.
For sure.
Often. Not always, but often.
Yeah.
So we think it's important to talk about because being humble is, like you said in the intro, it's an attractive quality.
For sure.
It's one of those qualities that people, when they see it, they're
It's flattering.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, they take it in, and you just see there's just a confidence in humility, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. Where on the flip, I think a lot of people think in their heads, a lot of guys who are, get a little cocky or whatever, they think that being the opposite shows the confidence.
Absolutely.
Or, there's like, how could I possibly have confidence if I'm just being humble or whatever?
Yeah.
Which is like, I understand the thought process of that.
Course.
I get where that comes from at its core, but at the same time, it's to not understand that there's a lot of strength and confidence in just leaning back and letting the work speak for itself, or just taking a compliment in a way that is very gracious, or
admitting when you're wrong,
or admitting when you're like,
or you fucked up,
right?
Or humility and like losing,
for sure. Oh yeah, the same thing,
and being wrong, but then also just not being a braggart, which is
the braggart is like,
yeah.
So this topic, if there's one thing over the course of everything that we have talked about up until this point, and will talk about after, I really hate a fucking braggart. It's hard for me to like look at someone and hear them talk about themselves just constantly.
Oh yeah.
Over and over, exaggerating what they do, whether or not they are actually incredibly talented or amazing, or have made all these accomplishments or whatever.
Let someone do that for you.
I would like to shout out my girlfriend in this moment, who within probably a month of knowing her, I was making like a joke about something. I am, as most of my friends know, I try to practice being humble as much as I possibly can, almost to a fault, because I wind up not even wanting to talk about any accomplishments.
Tell people that we have a podcast.
Yeah, that's his job. But I feel like, I just don't ever, because I hate when I see guys like that, or when I see anybody like that, I want to be so the opposite of it.
Of course.
almost to a fault. But I did make a joke one time about it early on about something that I was doing or something, and I was like I was putting on like a
bit.
a
For sure.
yeah. I was like, oh well, I've got this thing, and I remember her looking at me and saying, "You got to let somebody else say that for you."
Yeah.
And I was like, man, that is, even though we were joking with each other, that phrase has always stuck with me, not just because of her, but like in general, it's like, that's really what it is, right? When you go out and you start forcing yourself and your or whatever, there's it's coming from a place of such
insecurity.
Yes.
And it's very apparent when someone's doing it. So there is nothing wrong on the flip side of talking about yourself, because there's an art to it. In fact, being able to speak about yourself confidently, because that you are, especially in the line of work that we do, where entertainment, that you have to be able to speak confidently about your brand and who you are. But there's a humble way of doing it.
Thin line.
There is a lane to do that without sounding like a cocky braggart.
For sure.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think when I run into somebody who kind of comes into a spot or an area and starts sort of, I really like to engage with people and like have a back and forth about, whatever it is that they may do, whatever it is that I do, especially if we're doing the same thing. I really enjoy a back and forth type situation where we can kind of big each other up. Like, well, what do you do? Wow, that's really amazing.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of always hoping that the flip is going to be them asking you what you do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And a lot of the time, that's not the case. A lot of the time, what happens is you engage with someone, they start talking about what they do and how they've done it and all these things, and they have literally no concern to even ask or care about what you do. And even if they do ask, and they're not like paying attention, I just feel like that's such an unattractive quality in a person.
Yeah.
And being a guy, I understand where that's rooted in and where that comes from.
Yeah.
So I get it. And, I've been able to move past it over the years and like not let it bother me as much. But, I think that's really what we're talking about today, is like recognizing if you're that person and why exactly you feel the need to push all of your accomplishments onto people. It only can come from a place of insecurity and not feeling validated. And, that sucks.
And I think there's two sides to that coin. There's the cocky side, and then there's the braggart side, because they are slightly different.
Cockiness and bragging?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I think the braggart is like insecure and won't talk and needs to talk about what they're doing because they don't know how to like function in
or they
society.
don't want to feel like somebody else is talking about something and they're not on that level.
Don't want to be one-upped or whatever.
Sure.
But then there's the version that is cocky, which like comes from that same, it's in the same vein, obviously.
Yeah.
But having confidence, which may be grounded in fact, but it's just kind of annoying,
Okay, sure.
It's like if, for instance, like if you're playing like a game and someone's bragging that they're winning, that doesn't necessarily come from an insecurity. That just comes from them being a dick,
right?
Or
just being obnoxious about that game.
Yeah, and there's obviously levels to that. There's some fun banter play that you can do with that, and that isn't just completely toxic. But then there is people that are just like will drive it home far.
There's a limit.
Of course,
there's a limit.
For me, we found this article because I was trying to find somebody else's opinion, and we like to bring other people's.
We like to do.
Yeah, and it's from a very cool website called goodmenproject.com, cool. Which is like right in the vein of what we're doing here. Yeah. And the title of the article is "A Man Can Be Humble and Still Be a Man," which is just like speaks volumes right off the gun.
Right. Yeah, that's what it is too, right? It's like I feel that there's the quality in which, like, where it's coming from is that,
we feel like we have to be this like alpha male mentality, which is like what we spoke about recently.
If I don't, it's like if I don't, I'm gonna look.
I was like don't know what to do with my. I don't
You
know what to do with
it?
my hands. I like started to put it down. I was like, oh, I actually
On the table.
I never actually sipped it. I just like started to, and then.
Whoa,
Hey,
hey,
okay, we're gonna put it down now. Sorry, you were saying I.
yeah, it's like if they don't talk about it, or if they are humble about it, it's like they're less of a person. They're less of a man. Or it's going to come off like they're weak or whatever. And I just, you know, I understand. Again, I get it. But there is so much. I just find, or what I've experienced over the years is there really is something really beautiful about someone who, you know, is very grounded in who they are and has a confidence about them.
Yeah.
But can still humble themselves. If you're not willing to humble yourself, if you're not willing to try to see your life as what it is in the bigger picture of things and not just like
your version of what you want it to
your
be.
version of what you want it to be. Nice. Yeah. That is so strong.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about personal growth. You'll be able to grow from that. And you can't grow from the fantasy.
That's beautifully put. You cannot grow from the fantasy.
Yeah.
And so back to this article, what I gleaned from this, it started off talking about how the guy who wrote the article got sick, and he realized from his illness, it wasn't like life-threatening or anything, but he realized from his illness how he had to humble himself because he needed help from doctors, from friends, from family to overcome this thing.
Right.
And that stirred something inside me that I have realized for myself. But this kind of reminded me just on this topic that I broke my ankle. I remember the date very clearly. February 26, 2019. Yeah. I was out partying and drinking, having way too much fun on a fucking Tuesday night.
On a Tuesday.
Yeah, for no reason. And I broke my ankle running down the stairs to catch an Uber.
Yeah.
I broke my fibula and I tore all the ligaments in my ankle. Yeah. It took 2 months before I could even pretend to walk again. And I missed work because I'm a bartender, so I lost out on money.
Can't sit on a stool behind the bar.
No, and so
just slide all your drinks.
From that point till even a year later, even now I still feel it. But from that point, I there was a huge lesson in humility, and how when I was in my 20s, I was definitely more arrogant and cocky than I think I am even now. And I still have that tendency. I have a very competitive nature.
Yeah.
And I lean that way sometimes. But from this experience, I learned a lot of humility, and it made me take a step back.
For sure.
And realize that, I am fallible. I am not invincible.
We all are.
And I think a lot of that mentality that men have comes from, until they're knocked down a peg, we do have that invincibility complex. And it is super valuable that when you start to realize that you're not, that you learn something from that.
Yeah.
And it happened right before the pandemic. So I had this year to I was actively healing. I was rehabbing my ankle. And so I had to think about that a lot. Thank God I had insurance, because that would have been an even huger blow. Yeah, that would have been brutal. But then the pandemic hit, and so it gave me even more time to think about what I really wanted. And from that, this podcast came from the thought that I need to get my life back on track. I need to not party so much. I need to not be enjoying, the here and now and thinking more about the future. Yeah. And I wasn't doing the things that I wanted. I wasn't acting. I wasn't being creative. And so from that time of reflection over 2019 and into 2020, I was like, I need to do something. I need a creative outlet. And that's where this podcast came from. That's where I had the idea. And then I asked you, I was like, if you wanted to do this with me. That all came from a big ass humility lesson. And I can't stress enough how important that has been for me in the past few years, and the growth that I've gotten. So it was when those moments come around, those humbling moments, man, take note, because it's so much. I like myself so much better as this version of myself than I do as the arrogant, cocky little prick.
Yeah.
You know,
That's really what it is. It's about taking in, and sometimes it takes an event like that.
And obviously that doesn't happen to everyone.
Right.
So just having a sit down chat with yourself, and this goes into the next part of what we're doing. The what's a dude to do?
Sure.
And that's a thing we've preached from the last podcast we did, the weekly checklist, is know thyself. Yeah. Checking in with yourself and really taking a deep dive on where you're at, emotionally, physically, where you are in your career, what you want. If you are in tune with yourself and you check in with that stuff, you don't need to like fret about it every day, but if you have real moments of just knowing thyself, then those things are going to progress. You're going to have growth. You will grow if you are constantly checking in with yourself about those things. So it's one of my favorite phrases that we've ever come up with, or little bits or whatever.
We came up with the phrase "know thyself."
No, but it's a thing that
copyright Grayson and Mason, 2019.
No, but it's a thing that we've all, it's a thing that we've always hearkened back to.
Yeah,
is knowing thyself, and I think it's a valuable thing to really practice.
Yeah, and it's obviously easier said than done. Taking a deep dive into who you are as a person and looking at the man in the mirror can be unsettling and hard. Sorry. No, Michael Jackson, please. It can be really hard. It can be very. I guess you just don't really want to because
you're gonna find things you don't like about yourself.
That's what it is, because of fear of finding something you're not gonna like about yourself. But look, everybody has things they don't like about themselves.
But it takes a man to confront their fears. It takes a man to really to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, wow, that's something I don't like. Let's change it.
Yeah, and
that's
I mean,
fucking hard.
That just takes that's even outside of just being a man. That's being a
good
human.
Yeah,
that's about trying to improve yourself as a human being. With guys, there's the stigma that we have to be tough and cool and whatever. And I think with almost anyone, they look in the mirror and they're like, I'm supposed to look a certain way. I'm supposed to be a certain way. I'm supposed to whatever. And
we mold ourselves. We mold ourselves to what society deems is okay.
And at a certain point, at least as I've gotten older, I've just gotten okay with exactly who I am.
Yeah.
And surrounding myself with people who also like me for exactly who I am. Because when you surround yourself with other people who love you for who you are, who care about what you bring to the table and what you do with your life, and you care about them back, you start to be the best version of yourself. Because it's not easy to do it alone.
And there's such humility in that.
Yeah.
If you are being yourself and you're not trying to be, that version that is cocky and arrogant.
Yeah.
Like if the version that you're telling yourself that you want to be versus who you are, there is great humility in that.
Yeah. And I mean, there's still room to be. It's that thin line of confidence that, that's another thing that you can do. Like, it's okay to not, because I find, like I've already said, I find that I can be a little bit too humble at times. Not that, and again, I don't think that's a good thing.
Look at me, I'm so humble.
I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think that it is a good thing. I think when you're too humble, sometimes I've practiced it. I've tried to practice it so hard that people are like, why are you should be happy about this, man. Like you can be more like, there's no way you're like that humble, and that's okay. And that's something I've always tried to reflect about is like,
you almost dip too far in the other end of the pool and
it's
being
almost
like,
not,
I'm insecure about talking about the things that I'm good at,
Right. And that's also like can be damaging as well.
Sure.
Like to not even want to ever, celebrate any of the hard work I've done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not good either. So having that confidence, but also being able to express it and sit in it in a way that is a little bit more grounded and a little bit healthier. It's really going to help your lifestyle, and it's really going to help the people around you and you're just like day to day in general. And that's really where, that's kind of where we want to put a head to it, I think. I mean, being reflective about yourself and your accomplishments and where you want to go in your future, that will exude off of you. And trust me, it just is a more attractive quality than stepping into the place and being like, I'm here and I'm the shit, and you're going to hear about how I'm the shit, and I don't give a shit if you think you're the shit. I'm the shit. Okay?
Yeah, and then the last thing we'll say before we wrap this one up is like, in the what's a dude to do vein is like, when you talk about yourself, make sure that you are also engaging with the person you're speaking to and ask them what they're doing, and that's going to come off with like, that's not the humility side of it. That's the engagement side. So you don't come off as a braggart. Like if you're talking about yourself, make sure that you're putting the attention back on the other person, so that you're not just being that person that talks about themselves. Right. That's fucking annoying, It's
the number one thing you can do is focus on the other person as well. Have an engaging conversation about what they're doing, what you're doing. Yeah. Vice versa. It's that automatically. If that's what's a dude to do, that's a great way to not make it sound like it's just all about you and your shit. Because you're allowed to talk about your things. You should talk about your things. That's good. You should feel good about that. But if you're engaging with someone else, which you'll always be doing if you're talking about yourself, you're engaging with somebody else.
Unless you're talking to the man in the mirror quite literally, then that's just...
Which is good metaphorically.
Yes.
If he says things back, call us.
No, don't call us. Call a licensed professional.
And we'll send you to a licensed professional. But yeah, always try to put your attention back on the other person to make sure that they also are able to share their accomplishments. That's how you build community. That's how you grow. That's how you build friendships. That's how you humble yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. I think that's what we got.
Yeah, I think that's good. Transition.
Hey.
So I hope you guys enjoyed the talk today.
I did.
If you'd like to have share any questions or comments or general kerfuffle, you can hit us up on GraysonandMason.com or on all social media platforms and on YouTube at The Modern Dude. And don't forget, do your due diligence. Bye-bye now.